So you've written a rough draft and you've gotten some feedback. Now it's time to revise. And honestly, revision is harder than it looks. It's not just going back in, fixing some typos. It's really thinking through how you wrote it. What are your rhetorical choices? How do you make this more compelling to your audience? And so let's talk about revision. But before we get there, I want to talk about why we write personal essays. In the context of this class, I want you to rethink writing. And I'm asking you to rethink writing and develop new strategies for writing by writing something you're unfamiliar with. And still at the same time, I'm going to say writing these types of essays is important. In all our life, we're going to tell stories. Here's this from National Geographic. Why are we drawn to stories? When we tell stories, when we hear stories, it helps us feel in control. It helps us make sense of the things that happen to us. It helps us see how others think and feel. It allows us to empathize. It gives us a new view of the world. This is what people have done for ages. We tell a story instead of just reciting dry facts. And when we do that, we remember the details a little better. Harriet McBride Johnson says storytelling is an activity, not an object. And I've shared this quote before, but I think it really gets at what you're doing. Stories are the closest we come to a shared experience. You have not lived my life, and I have not lived yours. But when we tell stories, when we make those stories come alive, we allow somebody else to ride inside around our heads and be reminded that who they are, where they are, doing the things they're doing is not the only possibility. This matters. Your personal essay is not just about you. It's about allowing somebody else to ride inside your head and to draw some important conclusions about the state of the world, about the state of life, about how to live. Now you're telling your stories within the context of a personal essay. This is a genre, a style of writing. And although it looks like it's completely freeform, it has some characteristics. And you need to adapt to those characteristics in order to be successful at this essay. Among those characteristics, and you can think about how you can revise a clever title that pulls readers in without telling them everything. Joyous Survival, The Literacy of the Hillside Strangler, and Anything Extra We Know. Strange, strange title. And yet, you read the essays, so you know what Lynn Four is doing there. My Misspent Youth, Crying in H Mark, A Few Words About Breasts. All of these are hinting at the direction, but not telling everything. That's what your title needs to do. For the context of this assignment, you need to choose a publishing magazine. No, I'm not requiring that you publish in a magazine for real, but you do need to find a magazine that publishes personal essays, not all of them do, and that would publish a personal essay about your topic. That's how you know who your audience is. Who reads this magazine? What do they believe? What do they assume about the topics that you are writing about? You also need to format it so that it looks, when somebody reads this, it looks like it's an online copy of the article published in that magazine. So what kinds of things do you need? Normally there's a magazine logo at the top of the page. There's a title font, a subtitle, maybe an epigraph from the text. An image, what kind of image? Take a look at Crying in H Mart. This, of course, is by Michelle Zauner. And you can see at the top, we have the magazine logo. We also have what kind of article this is. This is personal history. That's what the New Yorker calls it. You can see the font, which is pretty standard for the title. And then we have the byline by Michelle Zauner, the date that it's published, a picture, and underneath the picture, and these are normally drawings, underneath the picture, we have a quote from the text, and then the rest of it looks like this. Here's Traveling While Latino, which is in a different magazine. It's in the Atlantic. And again, we see the logo for the magazine at the top. We see the special font for the title. And then here's a short excerpt from the text by Amanda Machado, an image, and then a date and the text. This is what I found in Standing Rock. Now, the previous magazines had one photo, but the Players Tribune has more than one photo. So we've got the Players Tribune, the logo at the top, the title, and this cute little apostrophe, and then the logos on the side with an image of Bronson Koenig, the date, who he plays for, and then we see text, and there are images, photographs, all through the text. And these truly, truly illustrate parts of the story. And so they serve a very, very important purpose. Cannon Fodder was published in the Washington Post. Again, the logo, the title, and a quote from the text, an abstract drawing, the byline, and then the text. I think that's all of them that I have there. Make sure you have a strong emotional hook. All of our stories, all of our personal essays have that. This is by Harriet McBride Johnson, and this is one of the most exigent, urgent, disturbing hooks that I've seen. He insists he doesn't want to kill me. He simply thinks it would have been better, all things considered, to have given my parents the option of killing the baby I once was and to let other parents kill similar babies as they come along and thereby avoid the suffering that comes with lives like mine. I mean, it's very abstract, and I want to know who he is. He insists he doesn't want to kill me. And then after she does all of that, she says it's like Alice in Wonderland. And I just, like at this point, I didn't know anything about Harriet McBride Johnson. And it just sucked me in. I was just like, what is she going to say? This is from Crying in H Mart. Ever since my mom died, I cry in H Mart. It's a short sentence. It sets up everything that comes after that. She offers an explanation in case you don't know what H Mart is. And she explains it. It's a Korean phrase that roughly translates to one armful of groceries. did not know that prior to reading this. She adds some explanation. This is where parachute kids go to get the exact brand of instant noodles. It's where, and it's where people do this. It's where people do this. It's where people do this. She expands so that people see what she is thinking of when she says H Mart. And then she ends this paragraph with all the places where she cries, and she's sobbing near the dry goods, asking myself, am I even Korean anymore if there's no one left in my life to call and ask which brand of seaweed we used to buy? Just as Johnson gave us a dilemma, an urgent situation that we want to keep reading to find out who wants to kill her and why, we keep wondering, why is Zahner crying in H Mart? What happened? And she expands on that. Amanda Machado in Traveling Latino isn't as emotional, and her style is really different. Look at all these one-sentence paragraphs. Whenever I travel abroad, the conversation with locals almost always starts with the same question. Where are you from? I never have a definitive answer, and so instead, each time I stumble through many, and so forth. Quick, quick, quick. Here's her dilemma. As a daughter of immigrants, I find that no answer seems entirely right. How do I answer? Where am I from? She's shown us. Where is she headed? Look at your mentor text. Look at how the author starts. Look at how the author builds exigency into that beginning. Because it's not just a list of rhetorical strategies. It's not just what they're talking about. It's what they're doing with those rhetorical strategies and those details. How are they sucking the readers in? How are they setting up a setting, creating a setting, a time, a dilemma? How are they saying, here's where we're going? Here's the problem that I'm going to write about. And they don't do this in a really specific way like you would in a college essay, but there's definitely something that propels readers to keep reading. There is a definite so what embedded into that text. So pay attention to your mentor text. You charted it once. You may need to change that because at the end of the semester, or not at the end of the semester, at the end of this project, you're going to submit a chart that not only shows what your mentor text does, but what you did to follow your mentor text. Let me just say, your author has a definite argument, a so what, some kind of exigency that makes their conclusions to the question matter to the audience. And their rhetorical choices are designed to help them develop that main point, to create their character, to evoke emotions, to make them their conclusions seem logical, to make readers think about what's true, what's right, to remember things they've thought, things they have experienced. That's your job. So that charting, you're not done with that. You're probably going to tweak it because most of your charts focused on what the author was talking about and not what the author is doing. I'm also going to ask you some other questions at the end of the project. You have to have evidence in this essay, and it's not MLA APA style in the essay, but at the end of the project, I'm going to ask you, what evidence did you use? And you're going to have to show me what that was. You're going to have some mentor text, general observations. Here's your opportunity to say, the mentor text did this, but I chose not to do that, and here's why. If you say, I chose not to do any of it, that would be a problem. Take a look at those sample essays that I put in there. They all follow Lynn for, and you can see that they're all very different, and yet you can see the influence of them following, the students following Lynn for. Think also about the read strategies you wanted to focus on, and things you wanted to work on in the course. You're going to have an opportunity to analyze how you did that. You're going to have to name the magazine you published in, and you're going to have to do a little bit of analysis about who the audience is, and how you know and how you're considering that audience. And it isn't just these are 17-year-olds, it's these are 17-year-olds who believe these things. And I'm considering that by agreeing with that, by showing that I share those values. Audience matters. Now, other characteristics of the personal essay. The personal essay is not just about the author. It's the author's story, but it's not just about the author. Its purpose isn't just to retell or recount things that you did and how much they meant to you, but to seek some deeper meaning that allows you to discover something and connect to readers so they can think about that deeper thing. Sometimes it's so that they can think about that deeper thing in their own lives, but sometimes it's so that they can have empathy for somebody else's experience. The personal essay is also not a how-to or informational essay. This is not just a set of facts. Surprise your readers. Don't go for the obvious. Typo there. In fact, if you started with the answer, you knew your thesis at the beginning, before you started brainstorming, you may not be on the right track with this essay, because that's not what these essays do. Show, don't just tell. That means you're going to have some distinct descriptions following your mentor text, some stories, but also the analysis of why those things matter. If you just throw in a lot of stories, we won't know what to do with that. So guide us. Look at how your mentor texts do that. You will have to present yourself as a character. Who are you? What details matter? That's Viet Thanh Nguyen, Amanda Machado, and David Sedaris. When we read their essays, we know about them. We don't know everything about them, because everything about them would be largely not relevant to us, and it wouldn't help them share their stories or relay their stories and get us to think about new things. But we have to feel like we know them. And so they're sharing the things that matter. We know a little bit about Nguyen's experience at Berkeley, about teaching, about interacting, about high school and being in the Asian group in high school. We know about Amanda Machado. We know about her background. We know about her traveling. David Sedaris, we know he has conflict with his dad. We know this at the beginning. They don't wait till the end of the essay to reveal who they are. We know because of the way they tell their story. They're introducing us to them by embedding those details in the story. David Sedaris doesn't say, I have a complicated history with my father. No, he has this wonderful dialogue where his dad just seems like, well, you can read it, but you can pick up on the complicated situation. Remember, this is Charles D'Ambrosio, Harriet McBride Johnson, and my friend Callie Limfor. They're telling stories, distinct stories. They're adding dialogue. Do they remember that from so many years previously? Of course not. None of us memorized dialogue from 10, 20, 30 years ago. So they have to remember. They take from that cumulative memory, which is their childhood, their adulthood, and they pull the details out and create one point in time story that puts us in the situation, that allows us to see the details, to be in their place, to see through their eyes at that moment in time. This is valuable. This is where research can actually be helpful. Did Callie Linfor remember that she was exactly 5 years old the first time she heard about the Hillside Strangler? No. But she remembered hearing about it when she was very young. She looked up the year, and then she knew how old she was. Similar, did she remember the exact pictures? No, but those pictures are available on the internet. They're disturbing, and that brought her back into that place. So you're going to remember. Don't say, I don't remember. Create a memory. Here's a phrase that a lot of students like to use when they're transitioning from one time period to another, as happens so often in these essays. Fast forward, don't use that phrase. Stay away. Instead, show us. We see D'Ambrosio doing that. We see McBride Johnson doing that. We see Callie Linfor doing that. They guide us. They don't just say fast forward. Should you use second person? Should you not? Look at what your mentor text does. Sometimes it works really well, and sometimes it feels intrusive. Rarely does the author say, imagine you're doing this. If your mentor text does, that might work. If it doesn't, I caution you about using that. It rarely works in articles for adults. Read my comments. I'll probably get to about half of you before your second draft. And if you want more extensive comments or you want to get those comments earlier, make an appointment to meet with me during my office hours. By the way, you have 2 revisions for this essay. Why? Because when I would see students complete their one revision, I would say, dang, if they just had one more revision, they could make something that they would truly, truly be proud of. And so I started weaving in this second revision. This is the first time I've done it in a summer session. We'll figure out how well it works. But definitely read my comments and read the comments of your peer reviewers. That's all I've got. Have fun revising.